And we're live. How are you guys?
Doing good. John, how
Unbelievable.
you doing? Nice to meet you, John. Welcome to the audience.
So Vince, you're with Epic, right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome,
Yeah, we
awesome.
probably need you guys need to talk offline and introduce each other. But we brought John Rogers on today. I know him personally. He's been a great help, mentor, even for me personally. John, can you let our audience know who you are and what you do?
Sure, John Rogers. I manage the mortgage channel for Acronet, a credit reporting company based out of Spokane, Washington. I've been with them for about 9 years. I maintain my real estate broker license in Montana for like 35 years, and my MLO license, I keep it as inactive in the state of Washington. So I walk the walk and talk the talk. I have the CCS certification from NAM and the Freddie Mac credit credit smart counselor certification. So I just try to stay in the game, try to stay up to date on CE and education, and just my biggest passion is solving problems for people. That's what we do on our day to day.
That is correct. That is what we do. I thought it was a great segment to put on right before Christmas, right before the holidays. People are using their credit cards. They're racking up some debt right now to make sure all the kids are being taken care of. And I thought, let's talk about credit. Let's talk about just where we are today in credit and where we are moving forward. I know I talk to John. For those that don't know, I talk to John every Friday, a weekly basis, and we have these, just these really opening perspective conversations that really broaden our horizons and kind of sharpen our knives on just the credit look. So let's talk about credit score myths first. Let's go into the myths. Let's talk about what's real, what's not real when it comes to credit scores.
Okay, so credit score is a representation of a individual's likelihood for default default risk. Okay, so these algorithms started well over 20 years ago. One of the initial innovators was the Fair Isaac Corporation, and they've extrapolated default risk into a three-digit number. So the result is, over the years, people have had to try to kind of crack the code, basically, and see, what really needs to be done to maximize your score. And so the myths really are going to be all these exact percentages of utilization. The model will look at primarily, it's going to look at revolving debt is the largest indicator of the score performance. Um, and so you want to keep the ratio, the percentage of your balance to available credit, uh, maybe not at zero, but as low as reasonably possible. 30% is kind of like the standard recommendation. But honestly, I mean, Dante, you and I have seen reports where you think that a specific balance is going to yield a specific result, and I'm always surprised. I mean, the more I do this, the more I realize the less I know. So that's kind of what happens. So
I mean,
yes,
let me
yeah.
let me ask you this: what do you think credit scores do well? What is a positive about credit scores?
I mean, honestly, the score element is primarily used for risk based pricing. I mean, that's
Mhm.
really where it comes into play. So I'm not aware of what the collective level of understanding is with the audience, but the loan level pricing adjustments are
Sure.
benchmarked to these credit scores. Um, so uh, what do they do for us? They give us, an indication of obviously default risk. But primarily right now in the market, they're used for risk-based pricing on loans, at the GSEs. I mean, there are indicators. Obviously, if you're below 600 or 500, you're probably, have made some bad choices.
A greater risk.
And it doesn't mean you can't fix that.
Sure.
So it's an indicator. But unfortunately, what I see in the marketplace is that everyone's, look at it. There's so much information, there's so much data in a credit report. And it seems like the originator's eyes are only drawn to the 3-digit number. You don't look at the trade lines. I mean, the old days, and I've been telling people this, we used to do trade line analysis. So you'd go in by trade line category. So let's just say mortgage, revolving, installment, right? You have the 3 categories. And so you would look at how many 30s on mortgage, 0, 1, 2, 3, how many 60s, how many 90s, same thing, revolving and installment. And then you would actually grade it. So in the old days, we would grade these, A, B, C, D. I mean, basically is what you do. And then the scores came in and sort of apparently does that for you. But, we look at the score can be, let's just say, manipulated.
Sure.
With some of these scoring tools and products are out there. And I'll be the first to tell everyone, just be very cautious of credit repair. I mean, technically, the repair component is frowned upon by Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, and they will audit people. And if you have credit repair available on your website, they'll notify us, and then it can impact your ability to, order credit reports through a third party. So it's, and again, I look at this and I'll see a credit report that has one trade line, and the consumer has a credit score of 780. I mean, a classic example I have is this young man had a 780 score, and he had one trade line, and the trade line was actually older than he was by over 10 years.
Sure.
So what happened there is he had been added as an authorized user to I believe it was his mother's revolving credit card, and he had a 780 and only one trade line. So this is the other thing. I don't know if AUS is picking up credit depth, but there used to be guidelines where you had to have minimum credit depth of, X number of installment, revolving, housing trade lines. And so the 3-digit number, I honestly don't feel is a panacea for making that determination. There's so much more involved in that, analyzing the risk. I mean, look at assets. Look at, have they owned property before? Do they make their rent payments? But the flip side is, does a $50 collection really represent your inability to repay debt? I just have to think that in many cases that probably should be excluded. I mean, that's what they're doing with medical debt now. Anything under $500 is not reportable. So $499 and below, medical debt not reported. We may see that with these new schools come into play. Does that make sense?
No, it does, because I mean, a credit score is a snapshot of where you are today.
Well, the report is. I mean, the actual credit report.
As John stated, unless you're using your parents' trade line that's 30 years old and you're 18, right? Then it's not, right? Because then you're using the authorized trade line, right?
But is AUS taking that?
Well, and that's the thing, and I'm glad you hit on it. Like, I mean, in general, right, we've all gone to technology, model-driven basis. Depth of credit really isn't looked at anymore, right? It's what's the score, what's the number, and here's where we're at. We've talked about this before in the past. I mean, when you have credit damage or your credit's in, let's just say under 660, we're probably going to lean towards FHA, right? That's just a rule of thumb across the industry. Call it what it is. I've made that known clearly. I'd rather take a higher credit score, even at a 700, to an FHA because it brings in better pricing models. But everything is just pricing model driven when it comes to FICO driven products.
Right. So
It's a thing that crossed my mind, Vince, on the concept, and this is what I was talking with John, is credit reporting even a fair assessment nowadays with all the different data points? Are we looking at the wrong thing to determine, the ultimate, right? The lender's trying to determine a risk. Is this person credit worthy? Is this someone I want to loan $250,000 to, $500,000 to? I mean, we're seeing conventional loan limits increase, right? We're somewhere at the 880,000 levels. I mean, so we're lending out lots of money for people
Loan
to be able to
limits
buy
doubled from
Correct.
400 to 800 in 4 years, right? Let's just put that
Correct.
out there, right? In 4 years. And
Yeah.
John lives in Washington, which is a higher limit state potentially in certain areas as well, where they even have high cost loan limits. And he's along the West Coast over there, so he sees it in California even more, right? We're talking $1 million single family conventional deals, right? I mean,
starter home at $1 million.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
so I'm just, at this point in time where you see so much evolution being involved in everything we do, from underwriting. We have AI underwriting now. I mean, literally, I can get an approval within 2 hours of me submitting the file. With all this in-depth changes, when are we going to see the changes really being made in the credit report area? And I'm curious to get your thoughts on just the VantageScore. I mean, obviously, let's touch base on VantageScore versus just credit scores.
Okay, so you have two camps. You have the Fair Isaac camp, and you have the VantageScore camp. Those are the two primary score models being used. So actually, can you pull up that slide deck?
Sure.
I'm just throwing this in there. Okay, keep scroll down. So I want you to see.
Doesn't allow me.
That's right. Yeah, you got it.
Keep going.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Keep going. Okay, so go back up one more. So on this slide, there's a slide before that. Okay, March 4th, 2008. You have to go to the next slide.
Oh, next one. Okay.
That's right. Yeah, March
okay.
4th, 2008, there was litigation between VantageScore LLC and Fair Isaac, where Fair Isaac felt there was monopolistic behavior with VantageScore owning or being owned by the three bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, whether if they now would own all the data and then the scores, if that was really potential monopolization in violation of Sherman antitrust. That lawsuit really went nowhere, but that was the beginning of the battle line, March 4th, 2008, where these scores evolved. VantageScore then hired a lobbyist. Eventually, they did get through the House and Senate the Score Modernization Act. And so now where we are with VantageScore is that it's been approved by the FHFA to be used. But the challenge we have right now is that the stakeholders were kind of left at the starting gate. And now we've got to figure out how to implement VantageScore into the loan origination systems, into the underwriting systems, LPA, DU, it's GUS, et cetera, and utilizing it. So the salient question really is at this point, now and scroll, maybe go to another screen if you would. Actually, no, not that one. It gave kind of a breakdown of the score models. Keep going. There it is. Okay. So this one, sorry, I've got the wrong axis on this, but it gives you kind of an idea of comparing Vantage and FICO. So Vantage has higher upper limits. Vantage right now recognizes trade lines with under 6 months of reporting, where then it's baked into the score formula. FICO wants you to see at least 6 months of history on a newly acquired installment or revolving trade line for that to come into the algorithm. And I see this frequently where we look and we see a trade line maybe was only at 5 months and it's not scoreable. It hits that 6 month and boom, you've got a score in there now. So with Vantage, you're probably not going to run into that. Both models are now going to try to incorporate self-reported utilities, cell phone, things like that, to bring that into the analytics. So as far as specifically saying that Fair Isaac is a better representation of default risk versus VantageScore, it depends on the models that are being used. But I would say at this point, just my personal opinion, maybe not representing my employer, I honestly feel that we now have scores as a commodity. And so one of the challenges is that there's been this spiraling cost increase where last year the score alone represented over 60% of our cost of the credit report before we have to implement our margins, et cetera, on it. This year, I haven't even run the number on it yet, but it's substantially higher. So VantageScore now is standing out as a more cost-effective solution, and probably going to be more efficient. And unfortunately, because of the fact it's now become a commodity, I don't think in your day-to-day Dante or your day-to-day Vince, does it really matter what score you're going to use? As long as you get the 3-digit number, you can get the risk-based pricing on it, and get that thing funded, and then ideally it's going to perform. So does that make sense?
It does. Do you feel like the lenders will go ahead and move forward with VantageScore as an option?
Absolutely, I'd say unquestionably, and it's economics right now.
So, John, you said that with pretty much certainty the lenders are going to buy into it, but at the end of the day, are the end investors who are buying these pools going to buy into it?
Good question. So I was at a conference in November, and Vantage presented, and I asked that same question. I said, hey, so when is Goldman going to accept this? When are Moody's and S&P, one of these rating agencies are going to accept this? So there was one initial rating agency that's bought into it, but if you look at on November 7th, Fannie just included VantageScore 4 in their MBS analytics that they use for submitting for securitization. So I don't know for a fact if there's actually been an initial securitization with what we're calling VS4, but I'm going to tell you it's on the way.
Be interesting to see if one of our major wholesale lenders winds up making the first initiative of using Vantage.
I think you're going to see it in 26. And I mean, so Vantage is coming out with a scoring tool, Q1. So we're going to have that. And I'm telling you what, the gloves are dropped right now, and it's bare knuckle between FICO and VantageScore, trying to hedge for where they're going to be positioned in this. But I honestly see that. Well, actually, take a look. There's a slide deck there. If you can go back, I'll show you.
The funny thing I thought about was, hold on, I think I lost it. I got it. The thing I was thinking of in my head was that we were going to be able to, basically use the VantageScore with the matrix that we have, the matrices that we have today. But it kind of dawned on me talking to some lenders that no, we'll just change, so if we choose VantageScore versus FICO, then we'll have a whole different matrix because they already are aware that the higher credit scores typically you see on VantageScore versus FICO.
Yeah, so conversation with Vantage at the we call it the NCRA conference, Credit Reporting Association, that right now the GSEs are developing a separate LLPA matrix for Vantage.
Yep.
So when that comes forth, then you'll be able to see, pricing from that. But take a look at this, the first slide. If you go back up, keep going. There it is. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this is a test file with FICO Classic, FICO 10T, which is the trended data. Their FICO is pushing to evolve into 10T as a to compete with VantageScore 4. So that is an individual credit report with 9 different scores on it.
Mm.
So can you imagine submitting that? And the range is from 545. I redacted the bureaus because I didn't want to step on any toes.
Sure.
But because technically we don't know yet whether we're supposed to generate a report that has the FICO data side by side with the Vantage data. There's still smoke-filled rooms trying to make that determination right now. So that's what I redacted. But you can see the range, same applicant. It is a test file, and and I think Lisa might be on the call. Lisa Torpedi was quick to point out that it is a test file, and the trade lines may not accurately represent, but at least it gives us an idea that we're going to see this range in this particular case. And there's so many scores on there, I couldn't get it large enough, but it's from 544 to 818, 815.
Yeah.
Same.
It's crazy.
Yes, 818. So I mean, all right, so tell me this. Everyone's paranoid that, hey, somebody's going to game the system. Well, hell yeah, they are, because you think that you guys aren't going to look at whatever's the most advantageous score, or if like Bob Brooksmith, the NBA pres, is saying, he wants, a single bureau, and okay, it was pushed back to another saying it's 700 men. Okay, great. But again, I was trying to get a screenshot of this report I looked at last week, where 2 scores were in the 580s or 560s, and 1 score was like 744. So how in the world can you come up with a solution that isn't using the data? But here's another slide I was going to show you, and that's germane to this conversation. Go to, there's like a matrix box. Keep going. Not that one. There it is. Okay. So again, I redacted the bureaus. So 1 is applicant, 2 is co-applicant. This is just absolute random. I used the Acronet randomizer, and I chose a report that's currently, in our system. And then we have this one analytic grid in the segment section of the report. And so it shows you on that far right, tells you the number of trade lines reported by bureau by applicant. So you can see at one bureau, 1 and 2, there were 9 trade lines on the applicant, 19 on the co-applicant. At another bureau, there were 9 on the applicant. So that's interesting. We have similarity in there, and 19 on the co-applicant. Yet on the third bureau, there was only 8 trade lines reporting and only 11 reporting on the co-applicant. Now that's actual live random empirical data that shows you the variance.
Now, why is that, John?
Well, so I think that here's another problem we have with the credit system that's kind of broken right now. It's the data furnishers. So the bureaus, God love them, they can only
they can only present what's reported to them.
Exactly. And so this is another interesting thing I found out at our conference in November, that there's all of these onerous requirements for us as a CRA and the bureaus to hold the data for accuracy and providing that information to whoever uses it. But the data furnishers have no culpability. Apparently, there's what this one attorney told me is there was a carve out in the legislation on the data furnishers, and that's the biggest challenge, because I see it all the time where the data furnishers report to only 1 bureau or 2 bureaus or no bureaus, or they report randomly, sporadically. They may report 1 quarter and then not for 3 years or something like that, and so this gives us this disparity in the trade lines and the way it's reported. I don't know if you've ever seen that before, but we see that
Sure.
every day. I mean, to the extent that I said, I'm wondering if we need to just not report any trade line that doesn't have data from all three bureaus on it, or
I mean,
recently reported.
we see there's a credit card that only shows up on Experian and Equifax and doesn't show up on TransUnion, or we'll see a credit card just recently where it reports almost individually at each of the bureaus.
Yep.
It's not congruent. So I mean, why does that happen? How does that happen?
It's dependent on the data furnisher. It's how they submit. They send in like a CSV format.
Mm-hmm.
Now the other thing that's ironic is they can send in an universal automated data form, which technically will, upon receipt by the bureau, will be updated immediately. So they should be able to do that, but that's such a granular application of these servicing portfolios where they've got, hundreds of thousands of credit cards. It's probably not practical to do that. But it's garbage in, garbage out. Whatever the data furniture is reporting goes to the bureaus, and then we access that. And it's a snapshot. Literally, the credit report is going to be the data on Dante or Vince at 12:27 Central on December 22nd, 2005. Boom! It's like taking a Polaroid of that.
Sure.
So it's not dynamic. So I see where we maybe, with the technology and AI and where this trajectory we're heading on, we may see more dynamic reporting, or more like a dynamic credit report, which we kind of do with this undisclosed debt monitoring, where it's a daily monitoring of any updates or changes in the credit profile. But the current credit report we have may be an anachronism. I mean, honestly. And then, that begs the question, is this 3-digit number, which can be manipulated, because, if you take somebody from a 550 to a 720, because the scoring tools tell you to update a particular trade line, does that really represent the behaviors of this particular consumer? Because a week later they could go pump up these cards again. It's Christmas, and so it's a question of really what are we doing?
No, I mean, and you're hitting it on the head. I recently funded a deal for a client, and the picture, once again, it's 120 days, right? We have 120 days on one credit report before I have to repull. So, at the time it was a 619 credit score. And then we were having to do a credit supplement. I was just curious to see, because obviously we can reinstitute a new credit report if it has a higher score. And so it just took a peek, and she was already down to 400.
Good Lord.
You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So does the credit report really serve the purpose? And I would say, it does, but it's based on, what we have now is technology that's 30 years old. I foresee, here's another slide I was going to show you. So look at, let's see.
If you got a phone longer than a year, that's outdated, isn't it?
So look, go back up to, so this one's interesting, but there's another one further up.
Up.
Keep going.
Go back up.
Yeah, keep going up. Okay, no. There we go. Okay, so keep the screen up. So first one. So trended data has come into play. So they're looking at it. You'll see a grid on the reports for the last 24 months, and it gives you an idea of the consumer's behavior. So you may order credit at a time where the applicant consumer has maxed out his cards, but he does that. You can see a 24-month history of that shows that pattern, because there may be, they're a transactor, right? They pay the entire majority of the balance each month. So you can see all these different categories. The trended data helps It's supposed to help underwriting, analyze it. It's supposed to be baked in to some of the algorithms where they analyze this trended data over the past 24 months. So in case you take that snapshot and this individual happened to be at the apogee of their utilization, this will sort of mitigate that. So okay, next, go to the next one. It's going to show you. So talking about credit, okay. So I found this a few years ago. There's this company called First Access, and they're primarily working in third world countries. So they have this technology where they make a credit decision instantly. So it says, I'm just reading it. So they use cell phone activity and texting activity. So they do not examine the content of calls or texts. Instead, they study applicants' mobile usage, frequency, timing, and other behavioral features. So by simply typing I into their phones when prompted, applicants will get an immediate approval or non-approval of credit. I see us going this direction, something like this. Now, another slide is going to show you. The one where it said research. What is that? Okay, so go back up. So this was next slide up. And just kind of big picture. So this was research done at Columbia School of Business. And those are the three participants in this study. So I wanted to credit them. But so go to the next page. So what they're saying is that an individual's written communication can be an indicator of their default risk. So now you're getting into behavioral analytics, which might come into play. Now, is this something that meets the current standards and guidelines of regulatory compliance or GLB requirements? Heck no. But I just see us using predictive logic, behavioral analysis, AI, all these things that may actually at some point in the not too distant future make the 3-digit score a thing of the past. I see us going that direction. The challenge is going to be how this data can be used fairly and equally across all applicants. So that's just something I throw in there.
John, any talk of using how people use Zelle or Cash Apps? Because I mean, a lot of people pay their bills that way, and the models don't look at any of that.
Yeah, great point. Honestly, absolutely. So I think the first step in that direction is now the bureaus, particularly Equifax, now has a new component where they're bringing in utilities payments. There's I forget the acronym. It's like NUPCA or something like that, where they bring in cell utilities, payment history, utilization, that sort of thing into the analytic. Experian sort of went this direction with the Boost program. Unfortunately, it's not baked into the score models that were used for the GSEs. So you'll see on a report, self-reported telecom, et cetera, but you'll also see those are only Experian trade lines. And also, sadly enough, with the current score models, those have no relevance to the score that you're seeing right now.
To the good news for us out in the broker world, banking world, lending world, we move slow and we move very, very slow when it comes to changing into technology. I just want the FICO score. That's it. We don't need all the other models, and let's just get to LTV pricing and done.
Right, fund it. You draw the docs. Yeah.
I mean, exactly. at the end of the day, all these new models are nice, but the truth be told, we haven't had a housing crisis, and that's part of the reason why everyone's trying these new models, because nothing's gone wrong.
Well, it's that, and it's somebody's they're hedging for control of the market. I mean, that's what's going on.
I mean, I've said this a lot of times, right? The servicers already have a 20% hedge to your housing value because you can't borrow more than right. You can't. I'm sorry, you can't go cash out more than 80% on your first mortgage. So at the end of the day, there's buffers all across the country in the pools.
So what do you run into with your day-to-day so let's bring it back down because we've at 40,000 feet, because I'm guessing a lot of people watching this were like way beyond their day to day, but they must have questions about credit and what they can do to improve it, or
we do have some questions. No,
No, we'll get to all those. That's the second half. After the three of us start rambling, that's the second part of the show. We let the audience ask questions.
Bring it on.
Yeah, no, we do have several questions that came from the audience, but yeah, we'll take care of housekeeping notes right now.
Okay.
So, housekeeping notes is this episode today is sponsored by Epic Mortgage. Whether you're buying, refinancing, or investing, call Epic today. That's 708-905-5300. That's 708-905-5300. It's your dreams, your goals. Let's plan together. Now, if you are after the show, once the show is over, if you're on Facebook or if you're on LinkedIn, we want you to come to our Epic Spotlight channel on YouTube. Make sure you click the like and let us know if this is the type of information that you like listening to. Right now, John, we have over 300 people listening to us right now. So we really are grateful and appreciative that everyone's listening today. So if you can, make sure you give this a like, subscribe to the channel. And then after the show is over, we wanted you to check out our most recent Epic Spotlight interview with Kendrick Watkins. Discover the inspiring journey of Kendrick Watkins. He's the founder of Trenches Boxing and Fitness, as he takes this world by storm. From battling adversity from the streets of Northside Chicago to creating a fitness empire, Kendrick shares how discipline, community, and starting from zero changed his life and the lives of countless others. Learn about building resilience, the mental battles behind the gloves, and making a lasting impact in the community. What I loved about Kendrick's story was the fact that he's been able to build a business of boxing. And, no, you didn't see him on the Jake Paul card or anything like that. You didn't see him on pay-per-view, but, he has built a whole life and a life that he was able to buy his first home this year with through boxing. So it's a great story. Now, we do have preferred listings. Obviously, we move into the new year. This is a great time to get pre-approved for a mortgage. I'm going to put it in the chat so everyone can see. But we want you to make sure you go to the website, DanteRoyster.com. DanteRoyster.com allows you to check out our preferred listings. These are properties that we know who the listing agent are. And so obviously with a golden pre-approval by Epic, you might just get your offer accepted. And that way, that's a win for you. So for next year, as we're moving into 2026, we're definitely trying to get you pre-approved and hopefully help you buy a home. Just a couple in particular that are kind of new to us is 240 North Park, Glenwood, Illinois. It's a 4-bed, 2-bath going for $240,000. Contact Jennifer Simmons, 773-494-9476. And which one else I'm going to give? Also to 6200 South Marsh Lane in Matson, Illinois. That one is a 4-bed, 2.5-bath going for $270,000. Contact L'Oreal Flowers, 312-774-4230. So all of our preferred listings are on the website, DanteRoyster.com. So make sure you check them out. All right, we do have some questions, so we can get to those. We'll start here with Nick. Great topic. What's the biggest credit score myth you see today? I know we kind of touched upon that, but sometimes the credit score thing. I heard what you said, Vince, but sometimes those scores, like some of these people it doesn't make sense. Like if you have limited, how do some people get 780 and some people are at 580 with limited credit scores, or limited trade lines, I should say. Sometimes it's frustrating because it doesn't seem like it's a straight line. I wish it was a little bit more simplisticated so everyone could know what potentially their score is. With all the percentages, I'm just not a huge fan of that. And then what they look at from, what type of credit do you have? Is it an installment loan, student loans, credit cards, revolving? It's just information that's not disseminated to the masses. So that's the part I don't like about credit scores, but I don't know of myths per se. I don't really have a myth I don't know what's out there.
I'll jump in. So there's no real hard and fast rule, even though there are indications and averages that seem like that 30% utilization figure. But for the number of credit reports I've looked at, I've always seen an outlier. So I can't say that there's a hard and fast rule. So the myth would be that 30% utilization is a hard and fast rule. It's not necessarily true, because I mean, Dante, we've looked at files where people had overbalance, over limit, and those trade lines, when we would try and see the impact of paying them down, it had very little or no impact. And ironically, it would be like a $300 Capital One account that had a limit of 300, and they were at 305 or 380 or 290, and paying that one down to $10 seemed to have more impact on the score. And the irony also, the myth, here's a myth. You could have a $500,000 mortgage loan trade line that's seasoned for 15 years, and that trade line has less weight in the score algorithm than that $300 Capital One account. Now, I just find that ironic, that because you would think that there would be greater weight in that mortgage trade line. Now, again, it's all on balance. So you have these different, they call them scorecards, where these trade lines based on their age and utilization will fluctuate. And so some, I guess the analogy I heard from this gentleman used to work at Credit Expert, Tim McQuillan, told me there's like the JV group. So you may move to the head of the JV group and your scores will improve. But then at a certain point, after age or seasoning, now you jump up to the varsity. Well, you may not be at the same level as the varsity players. And therefore, that might be what we're seeing with some of these scores, where you think that they should be above 620, but they're not. And it might be that they just advanced to the varsity level, for lack of a better analogy.
Also, too, with no scores, like what if I'm a guy that says, hey, I don't want any credit cards in my name? I think of my buddy. He's really an anti-credit guy, but he's very responsible and frugal with his money, because he's just like, if I don't have it, I'm not going to spend it. If I have it, I'm going to pay the cash to get it. And then he decides one day, hey, I want to get a mortgage. And then he's got a no score. You know what I mean? And it's just like he's being impacted because he's not involved in the game. I just think there's got to be a better way to kind of, really look at people and judge them for, are they responsible? Are they going to pay you back?
The new models will address this. So FICO 10T, VantageScore 4 will address some of those issues. And then the other thing is just put a small balance on it and wait for it to report.
The question here is, which credit score model do most mortgage lenders trust most?
Well, right now, it's not a matter what they trust, because to deliver loans, there are 3 specific models that are owned by Fair Isaac. So it's the the FICO Classic Score 2, which Experian uses, the FICO Classic Score 4, which TransUnion uses, and the FICO Classic 5 or Beacon, which is used by Equifax. So those are the 3. But which do they trust? I think that Vantage is new enough on the marketplace that there's really not been enough data to really have them trust or not trust it. But again, at the end of the day, I think there's been enough R&D done on these score models of the new 10T and VS4 that they should be trusted as well as what we have right now. Now, that being said, if we do see some performance issues once they utilize this, then they're going to ratchet it all back. But that's kind of, we're in this phase right now of transitioning.
But also, that answers the question. I think also too, what's important to note is the reason why we're pushing as loan officers as far as VantageScore is just the cost. We really didn't get into the cost,
Bingo.
but my goodness, when a VantageScore, and I know it'll be higher, but if let's say a market cost is $10.50 versus $110, which we're going to see next year for credit reports. That does impact the consumer because they have to pay for it.
But now we're back to the commodity discussion, right?
There it is.
Right? I mean, And then that's really all it comes down to, right? And at the end of the day, what happened? Credit reports went up because loan activity went down.
Ooh.
I mean, there's nothing else to say to that, right? That's exactly what it is. Like nothing changed. You didn't go from a $35 credit report to $130 for the same exact thing. There's just less activity.
Well,
you would hate to, if that's the truth, man. You hate to hear that.
This is a giant hedge that the bureaus are using right now because, number one, the MBA is pushing for a single bureau report. Okay. So we're going to have this, I call it the Darwinistic game of musical chairs. So who's going to be chosen if they do choose one bureau? So they're hedging on that. Number two, they just lost the revenue March 5th, 2026 on trigger leads. So they're making hundreds of millions of dollars on trigger lead data sales. That's going away. And then now the third issue is that until this year, the bureaus pay a royalty fee to Fair Isaac each year for use, per report of what the score that's being used. So the bureaus were enjoying the margin between what they paid as a royalty and then what they end up charging us. And then we have to keep our lights on. So we got to put in margin on our stuff. So it's three issues right now that was causing that change, that increase as a hedge. So the flip side, and let's look at the pro and con. So the con side is that is the cost of credit really currently representing the value of the report in the marketplace? I mean, I'd like to see somebody do an analysis, have an economist do an analysis. What is the actual utility value of the credit report in the marketplace right now? Does it reflect the current pricing or not?
Well, I mean, the thing is, though, if Vince is correct that, hey, less business, we got to charge more to get where we are. When we do see the increase in business, will it come down? And normally the answer has always been no, it won't go down.
I don't see it happening. I mean, it's like our home price is going to go down dramatically. I think we reach these plateaus, and then you're like, I can't believe, this thing's selling for X. And then it hits the next plateau. And It may incrementally decrease based on, market, but we're not going to see, prices, 2008 prices in 2026 or 2027. I mean, I think it's a safe bet to say it's not going to. It could happen.
No,
but
right.
I don't think so.
It's like we've said this before, right? We've had a structural shift in the price of homes. Values may come down a little bit. They're not going to come down drastically. And we're not going back to the conventional loan limit being $400,000.
Right.
It's the same concept with credit. Let's just put it this way: if this credit score didn't matter, when someone came to us to do a rate and term refinance, and we were typically taking them from a 7% interest rate to a 6% interest rate, they showed that they could make the payment with no hiccups. Why are there pricing adjustments? Everyone should be able to get the lower rate. You've already shown that you've made the payment, right? It's cost of doing business, right? And that's what the LPAs are all about. It's just making more money to Fannie and Freddie.
Yeah, exactly.
Good stuff. All right, next question here is Juan asks, how much can scores vary between lenders? Now, I wouldn't say, let's rephrase that question. It's not lenders per se, because lenders, but if I pull my credit through Credit Plus, if I pull my credit through Acronet, would I see a different credit score based on the credit provider?
So I would say, I hope not. It may be something hadn't reported. It's like, we'll see a collection show up. So let's just say the report you got from CRA 1 and lender 1 was at X, and then you order credit again like 3 days later, and now it's at Y. I mean, I've actually seen scores change in 56 minutes. I literally have seen that. And I don't know exactly why, but I have seen situations where they have changed rationally because now there's adverse credit that comes into the report that wasn't there 24 hours ago. I mean, I've seen that.
So Juan,
yeah,
Juan, to answer his question, it can vary, but we don't know to what extent. Obviously, it can vary.
It's based on what's going on in the frothing cauldron of the consumer credit file.
Correct. All right,
yeah, I'd have to agree to that. We don't see much variance between one credit agency that we pull through or vendor versus the other. I mean, maybe 5-10 points of a variance, but it's all pretty much the same.
Michelle, and I think where we were talking, maybe 4,000 levels above, I think people are kind of confused, and this is at least opening their mind having this conversation, because the questions are just, I can tell, how often do lenders update their scoring mode or scoring model? Maybe missing an L.
I'd say so. Try to answer that question accurately. The lenders are all using the same model right now.
Correct.
If it's going to Fannie or Freddie, or FHA or USDA.
Yeah, the models, they don't update them. Now they will update desktop underwriting, right? We'll see tweaks amongst within the year, and I usually attribute that to foreclosure and data reports. If they're seeing a disturbance, let's just say, with down payment assistance programs, then they will tweak those and adjust those price points of where your credit score has to be in order to qualify for certain products. So lenders are always monitoring the success ratio of what they're lending to.
So are you guys seeing any issues with below 620 or 640?
Yeah, 640 has, we saw a change in the down payment assistance program. It has gone up to 640. It used to be, we do have maybe one lender or two lenders still flirting around with, hey, I can do a 580 down payment, but they got so many hoops that you have to jump through. It's not even realistic most of the time.
But do you just came out and said, or Fannie said, they're not going to have any score limitations?
True, and we've talked about this before in the past. Right. I mean, they're going to have no score limitations. So then we're talking it's 20% equity, 80% LTV or lower. It's limited. It's no cash out, right? So all the risks that go with it. Fannie was just looking to take away some FHA business, in my opinion. That's the only reason why they did it.
Right.
Well, we saw it in the condo market, right? We talked about this where, we see a uptick maybe in condo sales, which are, affordable homes nowadays, right? So in the condo market, you would have to be FHA approved if you were a 580. Now you don't have to be. So that might be a potential.
So it's still going to be on the LLPA matrix, right? But they're not. So they're finally admitting they're not using the Fair Isaac GSE score models in the AUS engine, right? Is that what's kind of going on, or because they're still on the matrix, right, for loan level pricing adjustment?
Speaking to one lender, I saw a 520 60% cash out refinance get approved conventional, but 60%, as soon as you tweak it to 70, doesn't get approved.
Okay,
right. So if you at 60% or under, there is no LPA adjustment to begin with.
Correct.
Well, just below, right? I mean, it's you get the highest hit on the matrix.
Correct. Okay. So I think, and then once again, all this no credit score, it still doesn't help us when there's no PMI there, right? So you're still not.
Right.
So you're not doing minimum down payments at 550 on a conventional deal. That's just not happening. So, if you wanted a win, like a little small victory, you can wave your flag and say you won, but it's not going to help the masses.
Right.
It's a small section, a small niche that they'll do. Kevin writes, what's more important, score or overall credit behavior?
Score.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to say score because it's the gatekeeper of your loan transaction.
I wish it was the opposite way. I guess I wish it was more behavior But yeah, it is 100%
Do you
what
want
the
to
score is.
go to manual underwriting?
Hey,
Well, that's behavior, right? We go to manual
100%
underwriting.
Yeah.
manual underwriting.
That would be behavior.
I would take a manual underwriting in conventional world. I'd love that.
You know, the
You out of your mind?
lenders won't.
More
Well,
options.
the underwriters will become more valuable.
You're operating like the Bears did in the first half of the game on Saturday night.
I was waiting for Vince to get the Bears in this.
Oh, there it goes. Yeah.
They look like the same old Bears that first half for sure.
Yeah, they were caught up with manual underwriting, so they couldn't figure it out.
Awesome.
Clive wrote, does closing old accounts really hurt your mortgage chances?
Again, it depends. If it's closed and it's kind of a neutral. Okay, it's kind of has a neutral impact.
I would have said yes, John. So if you can, elaborate,
yeah, sure.
because
Okay, so
it depends on the account, I guess.
Well, here's the challenge, that it takes your aggregate utilization, aggregate available credit. Okay, so let's just say your total aggregate utilization, I mean, what you owe is like, I don't know, 10 grand.
Mm-hmm.
Yet you have available credit of 20 grand. So you got 50% utilization. Now, of that available 20, if you take 5 away,
right,
now that increases your utilization. I can't do the math in my head, but it increases it by that much,
Sure.
which could have an adverse impact on your credit. I mean, it absolutely could. But I'd say, once again, it goes back to the individual consumer and how. So there's not any rule of thumb, because I've seen cases where, like with these scoring tools, you can just completely eliminate trade lines, and you can go in and analyze what is the impact of closing these accounts going to have. And in many cases, there's no impact, but potentially, yes, potentially you could have adverse impact because now you've reduced your collective available credit. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. No, I mean, what we generally would see, or at least I've seen, is a person saying, hey, I got $10,000 in credit card debt. I'm going to stop using my cards. I'm going to pay them off. And they systematically pay it off. And then they do the ultimate no, they'll close that account.
Yeah.
And we see the score dip. And it's like, no, you got to keep it open. Keep it open and active.
Keep $10 on it.
Correct.
Quick other point to that. The longer an account has a payment history, the better it is for your score.
But if you're not using it, it'll fall off eventually.
True, but it's still there as a history.
Right. Exactly.
But you got to use it because the lenders now are smart to that, and they'll close your account, right?
Right.
Too many times they'll say, oh, it's been inactive for 5 months. We just closed the account. You're like, what?
Right.
Close the account.
So it potentially could impact. Okay. But again, it's case by case.
All right, John, we're wrapping this up. We're at the 58-minute mark. So wrapping this up, what is the look, for 26? What do you foresee, with your magic crystal ball? What do you see?
I'm going to see VantageScore come into play. I'm going to see more experimentation with 1 or 2 bureau credit reports. I'm going to see more utilization of technology for maintaining and acquiring applicants. Going to see, I think we're going to see continued downward pressure on rates. So we may see a refi boom. I could see that happening. So I think 26 is going to be an amazing year. I think it's going to be a great year. So you're just
better than 27.
Ask me next year.
Boy, Dante posting out to 2 years from now.
I know.
Right?
Yeah. So that I don't know. I'm not sure on that, but yeah, on the credit front, we're going to see more innovation of technology, and hopefully we find something that is going to transcend the 3-digit number, at some point in time.
I
Oh,
hope
that's
you're
awesome.
right on that one, John, but I got to say the 26, I think the first quarter is going to start off slow. That's the only
Okay.
problem.
All right.
I think the engines really rev up in June, and I think the second half of the year is going to be definitely there'll definitely be some fruitful. But yeah, the first I think right now we're in that fog right now of not really knowing. Some information didn't come out yet that no clarity on who's the next Fed chairman. All those things are going to
It's Kevin, one of the Kevins.
I mean, it's supposed to be, but I mean, they haven't made it official.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. But no, I appreciate you coming on, John, and talking about it.
Thanks
Good
for the
stuff.
opportunity. As always, I had a blast. So hopefully there's some value and interesting discussion, and love to continue anytime.
Definitely. And Vince, John is from the Chicagoland area.
That's right.
So
Born in
how'd you get lost on the West Coast over there?
Oh, my dad was from the West, and we ended up out here eventually. But I grew up in St. Charles and born in Evanston. Proud cadet of Marmion Military Academy. Now it's Marmion Academy. So yeah, and then ended up out here. Now
you're right there. You're right there with me on the bear humor and everything else. Then we're okay.
I love the. Hey, I have a photo. I'll send you guys the photo. I'm with Johnny Latner on the 50-yard line at Soldier Field. I took third place in the pass, punt, and kick contest sponsored by Ford Motor Company. I still have the football. I could grab the ball for you right now.
19 what?
Bada ba boom.
Pass, punt, and kick.
60 something. I don't know.
Yeah.
1960 something. Yeah.
Man, I did the pass, punt, and kick a long time ago. My goodness.
Yeah.
I just thought I watched a Christmas Miracle on Saturday, so it is what it is.
You did. It was an amazing game. Thanks everyone for listening in to us. This is just a reminder, folks, this is going to be our last week of the year. We're going to take next week off. So we'll be back tomorrow and Wednesday to finish up the week. Thank you for listening. Vince, anything?
No, man, I'm all good. John, you can go ahead and close out the show.
Thanks, gents. Appreciate it again. And, just manage your credit wisely, be vigilant, and make sure you reach out to these valuable sources of support and problem solving.
Merry Christmas to you as well. And then we got to do this, John.
Okay, yeah.
You're in the captain's chair.
Starship Lender Prize.
You guys are on your own.
There you go.
He's in the captain's chair.
I'm going into my spaceship. I got to drive to the city. I'll see you guys later.
All right, take care.
Later, guys.
Bye.
See you. Bye.